Band 3, and this just in here in Washington from the Associated Press, U.S. District Judge Reggie Walton declaring a mistrial in the Roger Clemens perjury case. That just in from the Associated Press. Next up, though, the U.S. House, we take you live to the floor.
The House will be in order. The prayer will be offered by a guest chaplain today, Reverend George Dillard from the Peachtree City Christian Church, Peachtree City, Georgia.
Let's pray. Almighty God, give us the strength to prove ourselves a people mindful of your favor, gladly doing your will. Bless our nation with individuals who give honorable service, who live with integrity and govern with honesty. Save us from prejudice, confusion, pride, arrogance, and evil. Help us that we might see truth and seek it. Defend liberty and fashion a united people out of many people and languages. Grant us wisdom for those entrusted with the authority of government, that there may be justice and peace, and through obedience to your law, we may show your praise among the nations. Remind us, though the rule of law is the foundation of our society, that laws without justice are empty words. In prosperity, fill us with thankfulness. In trouble, remind us to trust in you. Thank you for those brave individuals who stand in the gap protecting our lives and liberty. Lead us to faith in you, to good character, knowledge, discipline, patience, and love for others. Draw us together as one nation. In Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
The Chair has examined the Journal of the last day's proceedings and announces to the House his approval thereof, and pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the Journal stands approved. The Pledge of Allegiance today will be led by the gentleman from Kansas, Mr. Pompeo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If everyone in this glorious chamber would please join me in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Without objection, the gentleman from Georgia, Mr. Westmoreland, is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank Pastor Dillard for coming today and leading us in prayer. I want everyone to know that he loves his country and he prays for each and every one of us every day, as well as the other leaders of this country. This is his 4th time to be here, only the 1st time as long as I've been in Congress, but his heart is to pray for each one of us and our leadership. If you ask in Peachtree City where Pastor Dillard is located, they will tell you the big church with a red roof. But it's a big church with a big heart. He leads 3 services a day, and you can't say that he doesn't have some type of service for you, because he has a traditional service. He has a more jazzed up service, and then he has a coffee house service where he sits around and talks to the members of his congregation about things that they face every day in life. So again, I want to thank and recognize Pastor Dillard for coming and sharing with us today and the heart that he has for this country and for each and every one of us. Thank you.
The chair will entertain up to 15 further requests for 1-minute speeches on each side of the aisle. The gentleman from Michigan, for what purpose do you rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, hardly a week goes by without this administration promulgating some new regulation that burdens the American people and our economy. This week it's an environmental regulation that will drive up energy costs. According to a report by the SBA, regulations cost $1.7 trillion annually. OMB has reported that regulations cost $62 billion annually. Regardless of which agency's number we believe, it doesn't matter. Both numbers are too high and hurt economic growth at a time when unemployment is too high. Let me make this real simple and settle this argument between these agencies. The cost of regulations is not simply a number. It's jobs, and every job has a human face. If more spending and more regulations meant more jobs, then this President's policies would have produced the strongest economic recovery in our nation's history. Unfortunately, it's made things worse, and I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Ohio rise? The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Speaker. It is time that we get back to talking about what people in this country really need: the chance to live a healthy and prosperous life. Cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and Social Security should not be on the table at all. After reckless spending sprees, Republicans want to balance the budget on the backs of our most vulnerable citizens. This is unconscionable, and I will not be silent or complicit. We need to take care of people in this country, not promote policies that perpetuate a cycle of poverty. Communities like those in the 11th District of Ohio need jobs. The Democrats have introduced many job-creating measures. The other side has not. And we are still waiting for the jobs Republicans promised. I yield back.
Lady yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Madam Speaker, I ask permission to address the House for 1 minute, advise to extend my remarks.
Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, rather than negotiate in good faith with the Republican leadership, the current administration has resorted to scare tactics. On Tuesday, the President threatened to withhold benefit checks for Social Security recipients and disabled veterans. Threatening seniors, along with not paying our military, is a sad example of irresponsible political rhetoric. The American people have had enough of political games and threats. Liberals want to increase revenues, which means more taxes, killing jobs. The challenge is not too little revenue, it's too much spending. The American people voted to see meaningful spending reform that really reduces the deficit. House Republicans have passed numerous bills that cut spending, curb government growth, and encourage job growth. Cut the spending. Do not impose new taxes which kill jobs created by small businesses. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism. Our sympathy to the people of India, who yesterday suffered another terrorist attack on the people of Mumbai.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
I ask permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to pay tribute to Bishop F.C. Barnes, a great friend and distinguished American who has passed away at the age of 82. 52 years ago, Bishop Barnes founded Red Bud Holy Church in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, and continued as senior pastor until his death. During his pastorate, the church congregation grew from a few members to more than 800. Bishop Barnes was a world-renowned vocalist, known for his extraordinary musical talent. He recorded many productions, including the award-winning Rough Side of the Mountain. The loss of this great saint of God is irreplaceable. His enormous contribution to Red Bud Holy Church, Edgecombe County, and indeed the nation are deeply appreciated and recognized on this day. Bishop Barnes leaves a strong and loving family, including his church family, who will miss him so much. Their loss is heaven's gain. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise? Without objection.
Madam Speaker, briefly some examples of why the $1 trillion government stimulus spending bill failed to hold down unemployment and reinvigorate our economy. Over the past few years, the EPA has spent more than $27 million on grants to foreign countries. This includes funds for Breathe Easy Jakarta, an Indonesian campaign to improve air quality. Now, President Obama may have some affection for a city he lived in as a child, but is that any reason to send them federal stimulus dollars? There have been 65 grants handed out since the stimulus bill was signed. 6 of these grants went to Russia. 10 grants went to China. We already owe China interest on our debt. Why on earth are we giving them grants to keep their country clean? The Energy and Commerce Committee has launched an investigation into this spending. We need to know how much has been spent and if the EPA has further plans to send money overseas. Our growing debt is hurting job growth. This is just another sad case of federal spending wasted on projects that do nothing for the American economy. Now, I'll yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from California rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, it's been 27 weeks since the Republicans took control of the House. They have yet to bring one single job bill to this floor. In San Bernardino County, my constituents face a 13% unemployment. But instead of taking swift action to create new jobs, Republicans are threatening the loss of countless more jobs by taking the debt ceiling negotiation to another brink. And why are they doing this? To protect billionaires, millionaires, and corporations that ship jobs overseas. We all know that the Bush tax for the wealthy have failed to create any new jobs here at home. And they're threatening Social Security, Medicare to protect the unneeded tax break, which is wrong. No taxes, no jobs. No taxes, no jobs. Let's come together on a plan that creates jobs, protect our seniors and middle class, and do it responsibly to deal with the deficit. I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Kansas rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. This past week, a great American family retired from service to our nation. Lieutenant General Bob Durbin and his wife Diana spent 36 years in service to our country in the United States Army, working with soldiers and their family. On behalf of the United States, I want to thank them both for that service. This is also something I can speak to personally. 25 years ago, General Durbin was my instructor in leadership at the United States Military Academy at West Point. He taught me there that it's always right to do the harder thing and not take the easier path. He reminded me, when times get tough like they are here in America today, that real leaders can make real change. And Diana taught me that families with Christ in their hearts can make real changes in our world. Bob had many assignments during his 36 years in the Army, including command of Kansas's own Big Red 1 at Fort Riley, Kansas. He was also the first general assigned the daunting task of training the Afghanistan Army and Police Force so that Afghanis may live in peace and security like we do in America. Bob and Diana, thank you for your service to our nation. There is no higher praise I can give you than to say, job well done.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Indiana rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise in honor of Representative Bill Crawford, America's longest-serving African-American state legislator. Crawford, who is retiring in 2012, has served Indianapolis's 98th district with distinction since 1972. During his tenure, he served as chair of the House Ways and Means Committee, where he left a lasting imprint by crafting budgets that afforded every child an equal opportunity to receive a quality education and every minority and women-owned business an opportunity to compete. Crawford has also fought to ensure workers on public contracts reflect the communities where the work is performed. A believer in the power of redemption, Crawford authored Indiana's Second Chance Law, under which one who pays their debt to society and has been trouble-free for 8 years can have their criminal record sealed to ensure they can find employment. Crawford has been called both the dean and the conscience of Indiana's Black Caucus. as his metric for gauging the wisdom of any action has been simple. Is it right? Not safe, not popular, but right. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purposes the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Ask for permission to address the House for a minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. For months now here in Washington, we have debated spending, the debt ceiling, and job creation. But for generations, American businessmen and women have shaped not only our national economy, but the world's economy, and made our country a symbol of strength and ingenuity. To honor that spirit, I hope all of my colleagues will join me in listening to those small business owners and job creators who truly drive our economy. That is why we have launched our July is Jobs initiative, where we ask the residents of South Carolina's 1st Congressional District to share with me through social media and email their ideas on job creation and moving our economy forward. They are the ones on the ground every day trying to grow their business, hire new employees, and navigate what is best for their families. At the end of the month, I will share a selection of these ideas on the House floor, and I am 100% certain that we will learn a thing or two from those job creators. Because at the end of the day, this isn't about the left or the right or Washington politics.
Gentleman's
It's
time
about
has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Louisiana rise? Without objection, the gentleman is recognized.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to thank President Obama and the administration for recognizing how important Louisiana wetlands are to not only to Louisiana citizens but also to the country. President Obama put $35.8 million into his budget for coastal restoration projects in Louisiana. Madam Speaker, I also rise today to implore the Republican leadership to right the wrong in zeroing out the money that the President put in for our coastal restoration. The federal government has made over $150 billion through offshore oil and gas revenues, primarily from oil and gas exploration off the coast of Louisiana. Louisiana has lost 25 square miles of coastal wetlands every year, or 1 football field every hour. More than 80% of the nation's offshore oil and gas is produced off Louisiana's coast, and 25% of the nation's foreign and domestic oil comes ashore on Louisiana roads and waterways. The coastal zone also contains the Louisiana Offshore Oil Port, which handles 13% of the nation's daily oil imports.
Time has expired.
Madam Speaker, I would just implore the Republican leadership to do the right thing and restore the money for Louisiana's wetlands.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Washington rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute and revise the next.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I rise today, shortly after Independence Day, to pay tribute to a brave young man who lost his life defending our country. 24-year-old Sergeant Nathan Byers was killed in Baghdad on July 7th when his convoy was attacked by an IED. He died supporting Operation New Dawn in Iraq. He died protecting our country. He died fighting for a better, freer, safer America. While we mourn the loss of this American patriot, I rise today to remind everyone that his memory will never be forgotten. We shall remember his legacy of love, sacrifice, and patriotism today and every day. Sergeant Byers leaves his wife, Vanessa, an infant daughter in Spokane, Washington, as well as his parents, family, and friends who loved him deeply. He also reminds us that he also leaves behind something that is intangible, a legacy of honor for the bravery he displayed and the life he gave in the name of America. May God bless the Byers family and all the brave men and women who have answered America's call to freedom. Thank you.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from Maine rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I want to take a moment to recognize the crew of the Amtrak Downeaster, who quickly guided 112 passengers to safety after the train was involved in an accident this week in Maine. With the engine engulfed in flames, 2 conductors and 1 engineer reacted calmly and professionally to evacuate the train. Although the tragedy sadly took the life of a truck driver whose vehicle was on the tracks, no one in the train was seriously injured. The accident could have been much, much worse. And in part, we have the crew of the Downeaster to thank that all of these passengers escaped without a serious injury. Over the last 10 years, the Downeaster has made 30,000 trips between Portland and Boston and transported 3.5 million passengers without a serious incident. And the next morning, the train left Portland on schedule and arrived in Boston 3 minutes early. We should all take a minute today to think about the men and women who work in our transportation system, who day in and day out make sure we are safe, whether we are driving in our own cars or riding on a bus, plane, train, or like my hometown, a ferry. I yield back the balance of my time.
The lady yields back. For what purpose is the gentleman from Florida rise?
Permission to address the House floor.
Without objection, so ordered.
Madam Speaker, our economy has seen better days. Our national unemployment rate is over 9%, and America is borrowing $188 million every hour. We need to get serious about cutting spending and growing this economy. We can start by enacting the free trade agreement. That will create over 250,000 American jobs, reforming the tax code to encourage companies to create jobs and stay in America, cutting frivolous lawsuits and scaling back needless regulation to give small business owners a chance to grow and succeed. And finally, we must reduce the debt and balance the budget. The American people don't want more rhetoric. They want results. It's time for Congress to deliver. And I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlelady from New York rise? Without objection, the gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I have never been more concerned about our nation's economic security and future. Just this week, Moody's warned that the U.S. may lose our top-notch AA credit rating if we fail to increase our nation's debt ceiling. Economists say that if we fail to do so, it will put not only our national capital markets in turmoil, but the capital markets internationally in turmoil. It will hurt American wages and jobs. The stock market will tank. A letter signed by hundreds of senior company executives and organizations agreed, and it said, and I quote, "Treasury securities influence the cost of financing, not just for companies, but more importantly for mortgages, auto loans, credit cards, and student debt." And yet some members of this body have said that under no circumstance whatsoever will they ever vote to raise the nation's debt ceiling. However heartfelt this may be, it is nothing short of a threat to commit economic suicide.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Virginia rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, today I rise to address the urgent need to rein in the out-of-control government spending that has led this nation into a dire debt crisis that is hindering job creation and threatens the very future of our country. The people of Virginia's 5th District understand the importance of this issue. I continually hear from my constituents, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents, who say that if we are serious about turning this economy around, and if we are serious about preserving this country for our children and our grandchildren, we must put an immediate end to Washington's irresponsible and reckless spending. Our nation is now facing a $14 trillion debt and a $1.5 trillion deficit. We are borrowing over $4 billion a day and over 40 cents on every dollar we spend. And as the President continues to request an increase in the debt limit while remaining steadfast in his call for hundreds of billions of dollars of job-crushing tax hikes, we are reminded of the need to put in place both short and long-term fixes that will help restore fiscal discipline in our nation's capital once and for all. We need to continue to make significant and immediate cuts to reduce our debt and deficit now. We need to put in place spending caps that limit spending as a percentage of GDP, and we need to pass a balanced budget amendment to force the government to live within its means.
Gentleman's time has expired.
I thank the Speaker.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
To address the House for 1 minute to revise the next.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, C.A. Tinsley was right when he proclaimed, "Harder yet may be the fight." When they tried to privatize Social Security, we fought and held them back. We fought the good fight. When they tried to minimize the CHIP program, Children's Health Insurance Program, we fought the good fight and we held them back. When they tried to destabilize Medicaid, we fought the good fight, we held them back. They are now trying to minimize and voucherize Medicare. We will fight the good fight. We will hold them back because C.A. Tinsley is right. Harder yet may be the fight. Right may often yield to might. Wickedism high may seem to reign, and Satan's cause may seem to gain. But there's a God that rules above with a hand of power and a heart of love. And when we're right, he'll help us fight. Harder yet may be the fight, but we will hold them back. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I come to the floor today to bring attention to an amazing program that exists to repay our returning war veterans by helping them to readjust to life as a civilian. The Beck Pride program is an outreach of Arkansas State University that helps young combat-wounded veterans achieve their higher education and other post-military goals. Beck Pride provides free mental and physical rehabilitation services as well as academic counseling and financial aid. Both veterans and their families are referred to organizations throughout Jonesboro that give them the help they need during this critical time of adjustment. The Beck Pride program is nationally recognized for its success in improving the quality of life of returning military personnel and reintegrating them into the community. In light of the great sacrifices that these veterans make for our country, it's only right to help them readjust to the way of life they serve to protect. I'm honored such a program exists in my district, and with that I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from Florida rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, Americans are losing faith in our ability to get things done on their behalf. Today that means addressing two problems at once: our long-term deficit and our unemployment crisis. The truth is, these are two challenges. These two challenges are two sides of the very same coin. So when Republicans say that raising government revenue is off the table, I suppose that's why, for months, they refuse to embrace one of the very best revenue raisers there is: job creation. Our deficit exploded when 8 million Americans lost their jobs in 2008. With 14 million jobless today, no debt deal of any size will work without a focus on jobs. Investing now in infrastructure, in energy, in education will not only create jobs, it will pay back dividends in the future. That's because putting Americans back to work, supporting their families, boosting productivity, and yes, paying taxes is the government revenue raisers Republicans should join Democrats to get behind without delay.
What purpose does the gentlelady from Kansas rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, the question on everyone's mind in this nation today is, where are the jobs? And more importantly, what is Washington going to do about it? Well, Republicans have a plan. We want to open new markets to exports, make the tax code fairer and flatter, rein in regulations, and reform government spending. But when we look across the negotiation table, what do we see? Nothing. We hear a lot of speeches and that a lot of things are on the table, but of course there is no plan from the Democrats, no plan to read, to score, or to negotiate. To this point, the director of the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office recently said, "We don't estimate speeches." So, Mr. President, where is your plan? I implore my friends across the aisle and across the rotunda to get off the stump. Give us a plan. Compile those nice words into legislation so we can get Americans back to work. I yield back.
Members are reminded that they should address their remarks to the chair. For what purpose does the gentlelady from the District of Columbia rise?
To address the House for 1 minute to revise and extend my remarks.
The gentlelady is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Chair, the financial services appropriation soon due on the floor will be contentious. But one section should be a piece of cake because it only requires members to vote on the local budget of a city, the District of Columbia, already voted on, and locally funded by the only elected officials accountable to voters and the only officials who have familiarity with that local budget. I ask my colleagues to give the local budget of my city the same respect you demand for yours. Please do not tell local people how to spend local money. According to the Republican Study Group, its 10th Amendment Task Force intends, and I quote, to disperse power from Washington back to regions, states, local governments, and individuals, end quote. Your principle, please honor it. I yield back.
Gentlelady yields back. For what purpose the gentleman from Illinois rise? Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, our government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers. And yet when it comes to our nation's sugar policy, Washington has decided to implement price controls, which costs our country jobs. According to a Commerce Department study, for every job Washington protects by its antiquated sugar policy, 3 American manufacturing jobs are lost. At a time of record unemployment, the last thing that we should do is maintain an outdated policy that hurts job creation here at home. In my district, the 10th District of Illinois, we have confectioners, family bakeries, family restaurants, and food makers that are forced to pay higher prices for sugar because of the government price controls. If Washington removed these price controls, it would lower the cost of sugar and allow small businesses and confectioners to lower the price of goods and hire more workers. Today, I'm asking that my colleagues on both sides of the aisle join me in supporting the Free Sugar Act of 2011. This bipartisan bill will end federal price controls on sugar and help create jobs here at home. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Colorado rise?
To address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Good afternoon, Madam Speaker. The best way to deal with this country's debt is to put people back to work. You've heard it. We've heard it from both sides of the aisle. At the end of Bill Clinton's administration, this country had a surplus. Revenues exceeded expenses. There was job growth, 23 million people. But then, with George Bush, we lost 8 million jobs. We hit into a huge deficit. The best way to deal with that is to put people back to work. And the President does have a plan. We Democrats have a plan. Innovate, educate, and manufacture. Make it here in America. We will put people back to work. Folks need to be able to realize the American dream again. And that's what we're going to fight for every single day. We want to put people back to work. That will take care of the debt. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I yield back.
What purpose does the gentleman from Kansas rise?
Commissioner Grant, address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. We all know that the federal government is spending too much money, our national debt is too large, and we must make serious reductions to get our budget under control. Yet, as our nation's leaders continue today to debate the national debt, some in the Washington establishment are calling for greater federal revenue by asking more Americans to sacrifice by sending more of their hard-earned money to the federal government in the name of higher taxes. Yet we all know that greater taxes on small business owners and families will not help the economy grow and will not put Americans back to work. Tax, borrow, and spend policies do not create jobs. We cannot tax our way out of this debt. At a time when we continue to see record unemployment, taking more money from our job creators to pay for Washington's spending disease cannot be an option. What we need, Madam Speaker, is a growing economy to bring in new revenue. By pursuing policies that reduce spending, keep taxes low, and reduce regulatory burdens, we can help revive the economy and stabilize our federal budgets. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Madam Speaker, I rise today to join my colleagues in our efforts to protect senior citizens and Social Security. Over the past few weeks, I have received hundreds of phone calls and letters from constituents urging me to protect Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. I have a question. What will happen to the millions of senior citizens and people living in poverty who rely on these programs? Well, it seems like the Republicans are focusing on giving tax breaks to those who need them the least. Currently, approximately 52 million Americans benefit from Social Security programs. According to the most recent statistics published by the AARP, 1 in 6 residents in New Jersey receive Social Security. In addition, statistics show that women rely more on Social Security than any other segment of our population. Therefore, I urge my Republican colleagues to put aside their contempt for entitlement programs and submit to doing what is best for the interest of the American people. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from California rise? Gentlelady is recognized.
Competitive in the global economy, we must invest in clean energy innovation. San Diego has 767 clean energy companies and has become an innovation hub, especially in solar power, energy storage, and advanced biofuels. According to the San Diego Association of Governments, the algae energy section alone, one energy section, provides the region with 410 direct jobs and 108 million in economic activity each year. Unfortunately, the appropriations bill we're voting on this week cuts solar energy research by more than 1/3. It decreases biomass research by 33 million and cuts 80 million from funding for breakthrough domestic clean energy innovators. We can't hold back the companies that have come up with the answers to our serious energy problems. I hope my colleagues will join me in fighting for clean tech and biotech innovation by opposing this damaging bill.
Gentlelady's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Missouri rise? Gentleman's recognized.
We are now in day 191 of the new Congress. Sadly, I must report to the people of my congressional district and to this nation that we have done absolutely nothing with regards to creating jobs. Rather than spend time trying to blame George Bush or Barack Obama, I think we ought to utilize every moment we have to create opportunities to work. We are in a crisis. 9.2 unemployment overall, 16.2 African American unemployment, and if you add what the Labor Department does, which is something called U6, African American unemployment is at 30%. This Congress owes it to this nation to move the partisanship aside and create jobs for this nation. I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey rise?
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members may have 5 legislative days in which to revise and extend their remarks and exclude extraneous material on the further consideration of H.R. 2354, that I may include tabular material on the same.
Without objection. Pursuant to House Resolution 337 and Rule 18, the Chair declares the House and the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 2354. Will the gentlewoman from Illinois, Ms. Biggert, kindly take the chair?
The House is in the Committee of the Whole House on the State of the Union for the further consideration of H.R. 2354, which the clerk will report by title.
A bill making appropriations for energy and water development and related agencies for fiscal year ending September 30th, 2012, and for other purposes.
When the Committee of the Whole rose on Wednesday, July 13, 2011, the bill had been read through page 62, line 2. For what purpose does the gentleman from Massachusetts rise?
Madam Chairman, I rise to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you very much. Madam Chairman, Title V of the Energy Water Bill that's before us today robs Peter to pay Paul. Title V takes funds which were appropriated 2.5 years ago for transportation purposes and moves those funds, part of those funds, to Corps of Engineers in today's Energy Water Appropriations Bill. Title V specifically rescinds all awarded but unobligated high-speed rail dollars from the Recovery and Reinvestment Act and moves those dollars to respond to the unprecedented flooding this spring in many states for work to be done as it is designed and executed by the Corps of Engineers. Effectively, this is a backhanded increase in allocation to the Energy Water Subcommittee for this bill at the expense of transportation purposes. I don't contend or even suggest that the Energy Water bill is well funded. In fact, the allocations for the Energy Water Subcommittee and for the Transportation and HUD Subcommittee, of which I am the ranking member, are both totally inadequate. But I do object to killing projects in transportation that will create construction jobs in the severely depressed construction industry and provide a valuable transportation alternative in heavily congested corridors among our largest metropolitan areas all over the country. And I do absolutely support making the repairs to flood control systems as quickly as they can be designed and built. That's an obligation. In my 20 years, 10.5 years under Democratic president, 9.5 years under Republican presidents, and under the control in the Congress of either party, because it switched back and forth in those 20 years, we have dealt with natural disasters on a bipartisan basis, on an emergency basis, every single year. Most famously, that includes in September 05, the Katrina disaster, in which resulted in $15 billion for recovery of New Orleans and the Gulf Coast on an emergency and on a totally bipartisan basis. But this section takes from projects planned, applied for, and awarded, but not yet obligated, and kills those projects. Roughly $6 of the $8 billion appropriated for intercity passenger rail and high-speed rail projects in the Recovery Act are already obligated, and half of those are already in construction. The Recovery Act itself allowed until the 30th of September of 2012, the end of the 12 fiscal year, to obligate those dollars. Of the roughly $2 billion unobligated, 80% of those dollars arise from the single decision just 3 months ago of the governor of Florida to refuse the $1.6 billion previously applied for and awarded for a project to build true high-speed rail on dedicated corridor between Orlando and Tampa. Now, Orlando lies roughly equidistant from Jacksonville, Tampa, and Miami. Those four, Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, and Orlando, those four are four of America's 40 largest metropolitan areas. All have over 1.5 million people. All are growing by between 15 and 30%, and they are among our fastest growing metropolitan areas. They represent a prime example of the opportunity that high-speed rail offers in carefully selected high population corridors around the country to reduce congestion and expedite travel. When that money was refused by Florida, the Federal Rail Administration re-awarded the $1.6 billion of it to projects in other states, including, as examples, in the Northeast Corridor, which carries half of all intercity passenger rail passengers in America every day, nearly $800 million to work in that Northeast Corridor, and that work would bring the speed up to 160 miles per hour in parts of New Jersey, and the work would be done in New York and New Jersey. That for $800 million. And secondly, including in the high-speed corridors based on Chicago as their hub.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Unanimous consent that I extend for 1 minute.
Is there objection?
Object.
Objection is.
Would you?
Who seeks recognition?
Madam Speaker, I move to strike the last word. And I would like
the
first
gentlelady
to,
is recognized for
and
5
I would
minutes.
like to yield a minute of my 5 minutes to Mr. Oliver.
The gentlelady may not yield blocks of time.
I'll just yield to Mr. Oliver.
The gentleman is recognized.
Go ahead.
I think you're losing your time.
That's quite all right.
Okay. Secondly, in the high-speed corridors that are based on Chicago as the hub, to go to Detroit, to go to St. Louis, to go to Indianapolis, to go to Milwaukee, for equipment that will allow those high-speed corridors to function better. And thirdly, in projects on the West Coast as well. All of those projects are jeopardized by this provision in this bill. And I yield back.
The gentlelady from New York.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I'm opposed to the misguided cuts to high-speed rail funding in this bill. It will eliminate thousands of jobs, will halt a large number of rail projects across the country, and we are way behind every other nation, almost, industrial nations anyway, and hurt local and state economies. This is the latest in the majority's agenda that can best be described as penny-wise and pound-foolish. In their pledge to America, the majority made a promise to the American people, quote, "We will fight efforts to use the national crisis for political gain," end quote, they declared. Sadly, that's what they're doing today, using the tragedy of the natural disasters in America's heartland as a political tool to try to eliminate a job creation program, one of the very few we have, is just wrong. Thousands of jobs and millions of dollars in economic investment are at stake, and yet this fight brought to us today is little more than an unnecessary ideological battle. The high-speed and inner-city passenger rail program is critical to our country's competitiveness. It puts Americans back to work, it revitalizes our construction and manufacturing sectors, boosts the domestic economy, and helps end U.S. dependence on foreign oil. It is both unwise and ineffective to cut important funding from one project in order to pay for disaster relief. We are a nation that should be able to both build for the future, in fact we must, and provide for our fellow citizens in need today. High-speed rail creates jobs. And every $1 billion of high-speed rail and inner-city passenger rail construction funding supports 24,000 jobs. High-speed rail creates short-term jobs in construction, long-term jobs in ongoing maintenance and operation, indirect jobs by providing regions with access to a larger labor pool and driving economic development. In my home state of New York, the United States Conference of Mayors estimates at least 21,000 new jobs and $1.1 billion in new wages with the construction of high-speed rail along the Empire Corridor from Buffalo to Albany. High-speed rail also creates the economic corridors of the future. A high-speed rail line in western New York as currently planned would reduce the travel time significantly and expand the western New York labor market to 955,562 workers, would make us the 26th largest metro area in the world, and that means new businesses will be drawn, and then we plan to connect to the cities of Montreal, Toronto, and to the rest of the eastern seaboard, and for the first time in many years we may even be able to go west. In New York, high-speed rail will be our next Erie Canal. Nationally, it is rightfully being compared to the national highway system. Both spurred local development, brought millions of jobs to the country and the nation, and at this point in time, we must not let this opportunity slip away. What's more, rescinding funds for high-speed rail now, after $5.68 billion have already been obligated by the Federal Railway Administration, will negate the unprecedented work already being done by the FRA and its partners. FRA, the states, Amtrak, and infrastructure-owning railroads made significant progress in reaching service outcome agreements to ensure that intended project benefits are realized, while protecting the public's investment and the railroad's operating interests. The attempt to rescind this money is nothing but an opportunistic attempt to gain politically from a human tragedy. The flooding that has occurred in our nation's heartland is being used as an excuse to eliminate an investment in our transportation network and our future. This is morally reprehensible and economically irresponsible. If we're to be a competitive global economy in the years to come, we must dedicate ourselves to building the infrastructure that we will need to compete. To rescind these funds now, after so much progress has been made, and at a time when investments in our own infrastructure and our country are so sorely needed, is quite simply an act of foolishness. I yield back the balance of my time.
His time has expired. Who seeks time? The gentleman from New York. For what purpose do you rise?
I move to strike the last word.
Gentleman is recognized for 5.
I thank the chair lady, Madam chair lady. Yeah, I rise in opposition to the rescinding of unobligated high-speed rail funds in the bill that we're considering today. During the full committee markup of the 2012 Energy and Water Appropriations Bill, Chairman Frelinghuysen offered an amendment providing $1.028 billion in emergency funding to the Army Corps of Engineers to repair damage caused by recent storms and floods and to prepare for future disaster events. It makes sense to spend money on that. We've always given money for emergencies. But the funding is offset, in the Chairman's amendment, by a rescission of all the remaining unobligated high-speed rail funding that was originally approved in the American Recovery Act. The language of the amendment would rescind all unobligated high-speed rail funding as opposed to just $1.028 billion to be spent for the emergency. This provision jeopardizes several important projects that are already underway, already in the planning stages, that support good jobs and that will make long overdue improvements to our rail system. In last May, the Department of Transportation awarded some of these high-speed rail funds for major improvements on the Northeast Corridor, such as $449 million for catenary improvements, which would allow trains to reach 160 miles per hour in certain areas, certain segments, and $294 million for the Harold Interlock in Queens, which would reduce delays on Amtrak and on the Long Island Railroad. I've heard a lot of people complain about the trip times and reliability of the Northeast Corridor, and complain that even the Acela is not true high-speed rail, and they're right. But these are the kinds of projects that have to be done to prepare to make significant improvements on the corridor and to prepare the way for true high-speed rail later. Make no mistake, these are projects that are happening now. This is not money just sitting there waiting for a visionary high-speed rail system to come about. This is money going to real infrastructure investments now that support real jobs now and supports real economic development when we need it most. I share the Chairman's desire to provide funding to the Army Corps to repair storm damage, but this is not the way to go about it. This is a perfect example of why we have, or used to have, different rules for emergency spending. If something unexpected happens, massive storms and floods, we should be able to respond without jeopardizing other funding. We always said that emergency funding didn't have to be paid for by offsetting other reductions in worthy programs. I am very concerned about the underinvestment in transportation and infrastructure that seems to have taken hold on the other side of the aisle. We've always had bipartisan agreement that investing in roads, rails, bridges, highways, tunnels, transit is an essential government function. And historically, it's what made the economy grow. From Henry Clay's American system and Abraham and the internal improvements and Abraham Lincoln's Transcontinental Railroad from the Erie Canal of DeWitt Clinton, and more recent times the interstate highway system of Dwight Eisenhower, the economy of the United States was built on these infrastructure developments. As the nation is embroiled in negotiations over the debt limit now and how to address the long-term deficit, this is yet another example of the misguided thinking that cutting government spending is somehow the answer to these long-term economic challenges. It is unfathomable that we would pass anything that would eliminate good jobs, and not just the direct transportation construction jobs, but all of the jobs dependent on the connectivity and efficiency of our transportation system. We need to make the investments necessary to put America on a path toward long-term economic growth. We should be providing a lot more money for high-speed rail, which is one of the connection systems of the future. This bill that we'll be considering today takes an extra step backward by revoking funds already allocated, not necessarily obligated, but allocated and announced for ongoing projects that are moving ahead. I urge my colleagues to fix this provision. Emergency funding is obviously warranted for the floods, but it should not be done by eliminating already allocated funds for high-speed rail in an area where we very much need those improvements on the current transportation system. I thank you. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from New York rise? Mr. Tonkin.
Madam Chair, I move to strike the last word.
The gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We must fund the Army Corps of Engineers to repair damage caused by recent storms and floods and to prepare for future disaster events. There's no question about it. But doing so by cutting long-term investments in high-speed rail makes absolutely no sense, and I rise in strong opposition to this offset. This reckless rescission will eliminate thousands of jobs, halt a large number of rail projects across the country, and hurt local and state economics. The program is critical to our country's competitiveness by putting Americans back to work, revitalizing our construction and manufacturing sectors, boosting the domestic economy, and ending the United States' dependence on foreign oil. And it flies in the face of President Obama's stated goal of connecting 80% of America by high-speed rail in the next 25 years. Should this rescission pass in this House, the capital region of New York State alone stands to lose 3 critical projects, thousands of jobs, and millions in investments. Specifically, the bill, as written, would eliminate over $150 million intended for the Empire Corridor Capacity Improvements Project, the Empire Corridor South, Albany to Schenectady Second Track Project, and the Empire Corridor South Great Crossing Improvements Project. This would lead to the loss of some 4,223 jobs. Plain and simple, Madam Chair, we cannot afford these drastic cuts at this time. Just a few weeks ago, the local chambers of commerce from the capital region of upstate New York flew down to Washington, D.C. to meet with members of Congress to discuss their areas of interest and attention. It turns out that one of their top priorities was high-speed rail. Why is that? It's plain as day. High-speed rail investments create jobs. Jobs are the building block of our recovering economy, and a strong economy leads to a reduced federal deficit. Madam Chair, why is it that Europe, Japan, China, and other countries can invest in 200-plus mile-per-hour trains, but when the United States wants to simply lay additional track, upgrade some crossings, and guarantee timely, affordable, relatively average speed trains, we are left out in the cold? Let's not let short-sighted politics trump our long-term economic viability. These are common-sense investments that have already been committed to, have already increased reliability in our rail system, and have already created jobs. Let's not pull the rug out from the feet of our job creators. Not now. We simply cannot afford it. We cannot afford to deny the hope for jobs. We cannot afford to deny the American pioneer spirit. I would like to thank my colleague, Representative Slaughter from New York, for her tireless advocacy on this issue and for having the vision and determination to make high-speed rail in upstate New York and across this state and country a reality. Thank you, Madam Chair, and I yield back the balance of my time.
For what purpose does the gentleman from North Carolina rise?
Madam Chairman, I move to strike the last words.
Gentleman is recognized for 5 minutes.
Madam Chairman, I rise today in opposition to the rescission of funds from the high-speed rail program that were unwisely included in the fiscal year 2012 Energy and Water Bill reported from the Appropriations Committee. My home state of North Carolina has been working for many years to advance the Southeast High-Speed Rail Corridor between Charlotte and Raleigh and Richmond, and ultimately linking the southeastern states with Washington, D.C., and providing a connection to rail service in the Northeast. Over the last 15 years, North Carolina has invested approximately $300 million in state intercity rail service capacity, including the construction of new train stations and track improvements. These strategic investments have already helped reduce travel time between Raleigh and Charlotte by 1 hour. But over the last 2 decades, the federal investments in the Southeast or other high-speed rail corridors has been very, very modest. The burden fell almost completely to the states. In light of the enormous capital investments needed, while our progress has been steady, it's also been very slow. Madam Chairman, this has been an area where President Obama has demonstrated strong leadership, making major federal investment in high-speed rail one of his top priorities and continuing to be a rail advocate. Competition for the billions of dollars allocated under the Recovery Act was intense, and ultimately funds were distributed to 31 states with $500 million awarded to North Carolina. These funds will help our state achieve a goal set long ago, 2-hour train service from Raleigh to Charlotte, and I'm happy to report that work is already well underway. And we know what must come next: Raleigh to Richmond. These planned rail investments will relieve congestion, reduce our dependence on foreign oil, make our neighborhoods more livable and environmentally sustainable, make our communities more attractive places to live and do business in the long term, and create well-paying construction and manufacturing jobs in the near term. 20,000 jobs in North Carolina alone, as a matter of fact. Rescission of these funds is penny-wise and pound-foolish. It undermines an infrastructure project that would create jobs and pay dividends for years and years in the future. If we want to stay competitive in the international economy, we cannot continue to lag behind countries like China in developing a 21st century infrastructure. Rather than cutting funds for high-speed rail, we should be investing further in a high-speed rail network that will enhance our nation's overall transportation system, moving us forward the way the highway system drove us forward in the mid-20th century. Madam Chairman, I yield